Talk to really get me set off, but he's been talking a lot. He's been calling me out for 2 years, you know what I mean? So it's basically, you know what I mean, I'm gonna shut this guy up. You know, he's been...
The final face-off between David Benavidez and David Morrell was pure fire. Less than 48 hours from now, the world will finally get the answer, who is the better fighter? The Mexican monster or the Cuban? The stare down was long, the tension was thick, and both men looked like they wanted to rip each other apart every time they locked eye contact. Fans seem to be siding with Benavidez because of his experience. They think his years in the game will give him the edge over Morrell, but let's be real, experience only matters when everything else is equal. What really counts in a fight like this is power, chin, toughness, and stamina. And in those categories, Morrell might just have the upper hand.
I'm going to go in there, I'm going to hurt David Morrell as much as possible. More than anybody's ever heard of him and more than anybody will hurt. He's never going to forget David Benavidez after this.
The biggest red flag for Benavidez is his gas tank. We saw him fade badly in his last fight at 175 against Alexander Gvozdyk, a 37-year-old veteran who many thought would get steamrolled. Instead, Gvozdyk took over in the later rounds and punished Benavidez, making him look ordinary. This wasn't some prime killer. This was an aging fighter who had already been knocked out before. Yet he had Benavidez on the brink. That's the problem.
He's scared.
If Benavidez gasses out again, Morrell is not the type of fighter to let him off the hook. Morrell hits harder than Gvozdyk and has a mean streak. If he smells blood, he's not going to let Benavidez recover. He will make sure the fight ends violently. The hype around Benavidez's experience is a smokescreen. What matters is who has the better attributes for this fight, and Benavidez showed in his last bout that he can break when pushed. Jose Benavidez SR says they're not afraid to fight anyone and are getting paid well to fight Morrell, but money doesn't win fights. And the idea that Morrell lacks experience is misleading. Morrell's amateur pedigree is insane. He's fought the best in the world before even turning pro. That kind of experience is different from Benavidez fighting older veterans past their prime. If anything, Morrell is more battle-tested against elite competition.
Contact with you. Yeah. So I make bing, bing. Yeah. You can land a jab with a southpaw, bro. No. So I'm either gonna block here, or I'm here, right? Yeah. Or it ain't, just go this way.
Benavidez fans want to believe that his past fights prove he can handle Morrell, but let's be honest, who has he really fought that was young and in their prime? His biggest wins have been against an aging Caleb Plant, an over-the-hill Demetrius Andrade, and a shop-worn David Lemieux. Not exactly the resume of a killer. Morrell, on the other hand, has been tearing through opponents with ease. He hasn't been tested yet, but that's because he's making decent fighters look like amateurs. That's how good he is. The idea that Benavidez's experience will be the deciding factor is a lazy narrative. Experience didn't save Vasily Lomachenko against Devin Haney.
The main theme right now for this fight is that you're the one that's experienced. He has a deep amateur pedigree, but it's you who has the experience. Do you see that fight like this, or do you just see him just as another opponent?
I mean, I don't really see the amateur as any... I don't see that as, you know, this is not an amateur fight. This is professional. You know, this is it's a championship fight, 12 rounds. So, I mean, he might have an advantage, you know, the first 3 rounds.
It didn't help Teofimo Lopez when he fought George Kambosos, and it won't be enough for Benavidez if Morrell is the better fighter physically. It's all about who has the better skills, power, and stamina on the night of the fight. Some people are saying Morrell hasn't been in deep waters yet. That's true, but that also means he hasn't taken the kind of damage Benavidez has. He's fresher, he's hungrier. He hasn't been in grueling fights where his body has been worn down. Benavidez took a lot of damage in that Gvozdyk fight. He says his hands were injured, but let's not act like he wasn't getting tagged clean. Morrell is faster, more explosive, and has a brutal killer instinct. If Benavidez gets hurt against him, it won't just be a loss, it will be a beating.
I don't want the David versus David fight. I don't think David needs to be giving David an opportunity. David put in the work. The other David needs to go put in some fucking work. And he looked like dog shit in the fight that I thought he lost. I don't care if I'm alone in that fight.
Benavidez might be the more well-known fighter, but he is not the same wrecking machine he was at 168. Moving up in weight is exposing his flaws, and this fight will show whether he's really a top guy at 175 or if he's just another big name who got exposed when he faced real competition. Morrell isn't coming for a close decision. He's coming to end this fight early. And if Benavidez's gas tank fails him again, the Cuban won't show any mercy. David Morrell isn't just talking about beating David Benavidez, he's guaranteeing a knockout. That's a bold statement, especially against a fighter like Benavidez, who has never been stopped, never even looked like he was in serious danger of being finished. But Morrell isn't hesitant at all. He's not just predicting a win. He's saying he's going to take Benavidez out in violent fashion. That changes the entire energy of this fight. It's no longer about just winning, it's about destruction.
David's gonna give him a beating, man. To be honest with you, I think David, is gonna stop him maybe like in the 9-10 round. Maybe if he would have just hold on a little bit more.
If Morrell pulls this off, this won't be just another loss for Benavidez. It won't be like dropping a close decision or getting outboxed over 12 rounds. A knockout would leave no room for excuses. Benavidez's aura of invincibility would shatter. Fighters with an aggressive, pressure-heavy style like Benavidez don't just take knockout losses lightly. Once a pressure fighter gets stopped, they're never really the same. That's what makes this promise from Morrell so interesting. It's not just about this fight, it's about what happens next. Benavidez's whole identity in the ring is built on being the guy who walks you down, breaks you, drowns you in punches. That's what makes this fight different from any other challenge he's faced. If Morrell actually delivers on this knockout promise, Benavidez won't just lose a fight, he'll lose the thing that makes him special.
But I'm really excited what's happening on February 1st at T-Mobile Arena. You got two young guys in their prime fighting each other. I got to give credit to Benavidez for taking the fight. A lot of people said he was scared of Morrell. When Canelo didn't want to fight him, he signed up to fight Morrell.
His ability to intimidate and overwhelm his opponents could disappear. How do you come back from that? The blueprint to beating him would be out in the open for everyone to see. Morrell is 100% confident. He's seen Benavidez's style before, he's studied him, and he doesn't think there's anything special about what Benavidez brings. That's the real key here. He's not treating Benavidez like some unstoppable force. In Morrell's eyes, this is just another fight against a pressure fighter who makes mistakes.
But you want to see?
Yeah.
If you fight David Benavidez, what happens?
Man, the winner 100%.
For sure?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Hey, man, you the man, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's dangerous for Benavidez. The moment a fighter stops believing in the hype of their opponent, the fight changes. Benavidez thrives on the idea that he can overwhelm you, that he can make you break mentally before he even has to break you physically. But what happens when the guy across from him isn't afraid? Morrell has already fought and beaten some of the best pressure fighters in the world in the amateurs. That's where his confidence comes from. He doesn't see Benavidez as anything new.
Hey, there's 3 weeks left of the fight. 3 weeks left of the fight. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing.
Bro, I don't care, man.
And that's
I'm ready for fight tomorrow. I don't care.
How does it feel?
I'm ready for fight.
Benavidez is just another aggressive, come-forward fighter to him. And if that's the case, Morrell's game plan is already set. Punish him for his mistakes, set traps, and break him down. The Cuban boxing school is built on these kinds of fights, turning pressure against the attacker, making them pay for every mistake, and then finishing them when they start to unravel. The part that makes this even more explosive is the weight class. This is only Benavidez's second fight at 175 pounds, and if we're being real, he didn't look great in his first one. Gvozdyk gave him all he could handle. So what happens if Benavidez doesn't have that same physical dominance at light heavyweight? What if his power doesn't carry up as well as it did at 168? What if he can't physically bully Morrell the way he did smaller guys?
It don't matter what we do. When we beat David Morrell, people are going to say that, oh, he didn't have the experience, he was not at his level. People are always going to talk, man. But I think that it's a very tough fight for David,
Morrell is a natural 175 pounder, and he might be the stronger man there. If that's the case, Benavidez is in for a nightmare scenario. What's interesting is that Morrell's not just thinking about himself with this fight. He's thinking about what this win would mean for Cuban boxing. He said it himself, this is going to open the door for more Cuban fighters. He's carrying the weight of something bigger than himself. That's extra motivation. That means he's not just fighting for himself, he's fighting for history. That kind of pressure can either break a fighter or turn them into something unstoppable. And Morrell seems convinced that he's on the verge of something massive.
David Morrell, his team,
his dog, his cat, everybody over there. My main job is to beat the out of him. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
But let's talk about what happens if this knockout actually happens. Benavidez is a star. He's been built up as the man to beat Canelo, the next big thing. If Morrell stops him, he ruins a lot of big money plans. You don't just walk away from that without consequences. The rematch would be inevitable. Benavidez's team wouldn't let him walk away without getting another shot. But the question is, would Benavidez want that fight again? Getting stopped isn't like losing on the cards. If Morrell knocks him out in devastating fashion, does Benavidez even want to go through that again?
Morrell has not had resistance. His fight with Hot Rod, that was a different kind of resistance. That was the resistance of somebody staying away from you, you know what I mean? And him not being able to catch up to him. With Benavidez can bang with him.
And if Morrell wins, where does he go? He's already thinking about the Beterbiev versus Bivol winner. That's the biggest fight in the division. And honestly, if he dominates Benavidez, he might deserve that shot. But let's be real. The politics of boxing might not let that happen right away. If Morrell becomes the guy who ruined Benavidez, the people running the sport aren't just going to let him walk away with all the shine. This is the part that makes the business of boxing frustrating. The sport needs stars. And Benavidez is a star. If Morrell destroys him, there's no telling how that impacts the division. Do the promoters want to take that risk, or do they immediately try to run it back, hoping Benavidez can redeem himself? This is one of those fights where a single punch can flip the entire landscape of the division.
The winner of the Benavidez versus Morrell fight is the mandatory now for the winner of this fight. What is your reaction to that?
To be honest, I don't think too much about their fight because I have my own business.
Morrell knows all of this, and that's what makes his confidence so important. He's not just guaranteeing a win, he's guaranteeing a moment, a statement, something that changes the way people see him, and that's what makes this fight feel different. Benavidez has never been in this situation before. He's never had someone look at him and say, "I'm gonna knock you out and I don't care what you bring." Usually he's the one doing the intimidating, but not this time. Benavidez is walking into this fight as the guy with everything to lose. Morrell is the guy with everything to gain. That makes for dangerous territory. If Benavidez starts second-guessing himself, if he starts worrying about Morrell's power instead of just fighting his fight, that could be the beginning of the end. The moment doubt creeps in, it's over. Morrell is waiting for that crack in Benavidez's armor, and if he finds it, he's going to capitalize on it in the most violent way possible.
In my eyes, I see it as a 50-50 fight, and I know some might say, well, why do you think it's a 50-50 fight? Because, one, we know we've definitely seen a lot from Benavidez over the years. When it comes to Morrell, we've seen, spots of him.
A KO win would change everything. It would flip the script. Benavidez, the guy who was supposed to be the future of the division, would suddenly be the guy trying to pick up the pieces of his career. Morrell, the guy who was supposed to just be a solid contender, would become the man at 175. This fight isn't just about a win, it's about a shift in power. That's what makes it so dangerous. David Morrell Jr. and David Benavidez are set to collide in a high-stakes battle at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, with Morrell's team exuding confidence ahead of the fight. Among the loudest voices backing Morrell is his manager, Luis de Cubas, who firmly believes that Benavidez's aggressive style plays right into Morrell's strengths. De Cubas even went as far as suggesting that not only will Morrell win, but he could stop Benavidez in what would be a career-defining victory. "I'm very confident," De Cubas said. "We had a great camp, great sparring, and I'm very confident in this fight. The guy is made to order for Morrell. He comes forward. He's not bad defensively, but he is not that hard to hit, okay? He's gonna find out when he gets hit by a full-fledged light heavyweight." Morrell has quickly made a name for himself, racking up knockout wins before making his move to the light heavyweight division. In his debut at 175 pounds, the Cuban southpaw won a clear, unanimous decision over Radivoje Kalajdzic, showing he can hang with top-tier competition in his new weight class. Benavidez, meanwhile, also made his light heavyweight debut recently, securing a unanimous decision over former champion Alexander Gvozdyk. While both fighters have proven they can be successful at 175, De Cubas sees key differences in their styles that favor Morrell. He believes Benavidez's high-pressure approach and aggressive forward movement will leave him open to counters from the slick Cuban boxer puncher. Morrell's power and precision, DeCubas argues, could spell disaster for Benavidez. If Benavidez can take this kid's punches for 12 rounds, I'm going to respect Benavidez a lot, and I would favor him over any light heavyweight in the world because this guy punches holes through walls. DeCubas said, he's got Sonny Liston's hands. It's a bold claim, but one that highlights just how highly Morrell's team rates his power. DeCubas added that a dominant win over Benavidez would catapult Morrell into the top 10 of the pound-for-pound rankings, cementing him as one of the sport's elite.
I really don't care about that. Even if it was on steroids, I beat them. But, you know, if you're a dirty fighter, you will get exposed.
The fight is scheduled for Saturday, with the main card on PBC's pay-per-view beginning at 8 p.m. ET. The anticipation is building, and all eyes will be on both fighters as they step on the scale during Friday's weigh-in. But for Benavidez, the weigh-in might be a battle in itself. Concerns over Benavidez's ability to comfortably make weight have been growing, and during his media workout, those worries intensified. The undefeated Mexican-American fighter appeared drained and struggled to show his usual intensity, leading many to question whether the weight cut is taking too much out of him. Benavidez's struggles with weight are nothing new. At super middleweight, he was notorious for being a massive fighter who relied on his size and strength to overwhelm smaller opponents. Now at 175 pounds, many expected him to be more comfortable, but his recent appearance suggests otherwise.
David Benavidez does have a very good chance of beating him. So with that being said, as long as David Benavidez can fight like how he normally fights, meaning he can walk people down, overpower them, and also obviously he can bang too.
This is exactly what Morrell's supporters feared. If Benavidez is struggling to cut weight, it could severely affect his conditioning and power on fight night. Morrell, on the other hand, has looked strong and fresh in the build-up, showing no signs of fatigue or depletion. When Benavidez was fighting against old, smaller guys at super middleweight, he could get away with being weight drained because his opposition was a mix of washed-up fighters and tomato cans, one analyst pointed out. He can't get away with that against Morrell, who will take advantage of his weakness to beat the stuffing out of him if he's fighting at 60% capacity. This raises a critical question. Is Benavidez simply too big for 175 pounds? Some have even suggested that Benavidez is a natural cruiserweight and should be competing in the 200-pound division instead.
An update about how everything has been.
Everything has been going amazing. Training camp has been amazing. We've been working extremely hard. You know, we got a hard fight, but these are the types of fights I want. These are the type of fighters I want to go against, and we had an amazing camp, but we're putting the finishing touches up on right now. We got 3 weeks.
If he enters the ring feeling drained and depleted, he could be in for a long night against Morrell, who is known for his sharp counterpunching and power. Despite concerns about his weight, Benavidez remains as confident as ever. He has dismissed Morrell's team's claims and insists he is ready to put on a show. However, some of his comments during the media workout suggest he might be feeling the pressure. It only takes a little bit of trash talk to set me off, but he's been talking a lot. He's been calling me out for 2 years, Benavidez said. I'm gonna shut this guy up. Interestingly, Morrell has actually been calling out Benavidez since 2022, meaning it has been 3 years, not 2. The Cuban has been relentless in his pursuit of this fight, and now that it's finally happening, he is eager to make a statement.
That's the problem with the PBC. We never asked you to put this on pay-per-view. Just because we said we want to see a fight don't mean we want to pay for a fight. They trying to make David not a star, the opposite of it, because this is going to be the second fight where dudes steal it. They going to steal it. Boo Boo Andre, that was what? 68,000? Nobody ever came out to say anything better than 60.
I've been a professional for 11 years, Benavidez continued. I have way more experience. Again, a minor correction, Benavidez turned pro in 2013, making it 12 years, not 11. While he has logged significantly more professional rounds than Morrell, 148-54, the Cuban has a deep amateur background, having faced top-level opposition long before turning pro. Benavidez referenced his victory over Caleb Plant as proof of his elite status. Plant remains the best name on his resume, and it was a hard-fought victory that showcased Benavidez's pressure-fighting style. I don't have to look for just one punch. In this fight, we're going to do different stuff. We're going to be throwing combinations right off the bat, and once I let my combinations go, you're going to see the best David Benavidez that has been seen, he said. I'm not just looking for one shot, I'm going to punish this dude from every angle. Body shots, headshots, and uppercuts. Whatever it is, I'm going to punish him. While Benavidez' words sound confident, the big question remains. Will he have enough in the tank to execute his game plan for all 12 rounds? If his weight cut has drained him too much, he could find himself in deep trouble against a sharp and physically strong Morrell.
You need to throw a belt. Why not pass the belt down to the side and go handle it? If you're really mad, if you're really about that, you know? I mean, it is what it is.
Morrell's supporters believe that the Cuban's power and technical skill will be too much for a potentially weight-drained Benavidez. De Cubas and others in his camp are predicting a stoppage win, something that would shake up the entire light heavyweight division. But what do you think? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates.